Today's episode is brought to you by the FUMS Holiday Gift Guide, an annual guide including over 50 gift ideas for those with MS and other chronic illnesses, and for those who love us. Forward a link to your friends and family and mark a few gifts you'd like. And new this year, FUMS logoed merchandise. Let the world know how you feel about MS loud and proud. Share your FUMS attitude on t-shirts, sweatshirts, socks, tote bags, a phone case. There are a ton of options. You can find the FUMS Holiday Gift Guide at fumsnow.com/holiday gift guide.
Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at fumsnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Today, I'm interviewing Lena Andersen, a writer, health and disability advocate, photographer, and chronic illness navigator who's had rheumatoid arthritis since she was 4 years old. She's the author of the book, Chronic Christmas, Surviving the Holidays with a Chronic Illness, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. Let's go meet her. Hey, Lena, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Good. Yes, you are an unusual guest on the FUMS podcast show in that you don't have MS. And in fact, we're not talking specifically about MS today. You are, however, a chronic illness warrior, as you have rheumatoid arthritis since you were 4 years old. That is just heartbreaking, I think, in a child. Can you give us a little of your background, both with the disease and your professional life?
Do you have a couple of hours? I will try to condense as much as possible. I was born and raised in Denmark, and I got juvenile arthritis when I was 4, and I spent a lot of my childhood in and out of hospitals, and at some points mostly in, especially between the ages of 13 and 16. And when I was 16, I got hip replacements in both my hips, which enabled me to sit up rather than lie in a hospital bed. And I got a power wheelchair, and I went home and never looked back. And about 3-4 years later, I moved with my parents and sister to Canada, where I live now in Toronto. I went to university, studied psychology, got a master's in social work, and I worked in policy development and equal opportunity for a while. And then the political climate changed, and I lost my job and was out of work for a long time. And then fast forward about several years, and I had a really bad flare of my RA, short form for rheumatoid arthritis, in 2004. It was very, very bad. And I started biologics that I'm sure many of your audience know about biologics. I know they're also used for MS. And they quite literally saved my life. And after that, once I started getting a bit better, I decided that since I'd been given the second chance at life, I had to honor it. Mm-hmm. So I decided to pursue my lifelong dream of being a writer, and started by writing a blog that I called The Seated View. And that sort of led to the whole writer thing really taking off. And a few years later, I became the lead writer for healthcentral.com's rheumatoid arthritis site.
Oh, nice.
A few years after that, I published my first book called Your Life with Rheumatoid Arthritis, Tools for Managing Treatment, Side Effects, and Pain. And so basically, since then, I've put a couple of other books out in the middle of writing one as well, and I got plans for more. So basically, I'm sort of living the dream I had when I was very young.
That's great. Well, I'm awfully glad you're living that dream, because it made it possible for me to find this book that I am loving and absolutely recommending to my audience. It is called Chronic Christmas, Surviving the Holidays with a Chronic Illness. Why did you decide to write this book in particular?
Well, it all started with me doing an advent calendar on my blog. I did a post every day in December with a tip for how someone with chronic illness could make the whole holiday experience easier.
Bearable.
And, bearable, tolerable, survivable, the whole thing. And a few months into the new year, I ended up being hospitalized with pneumonia that turned very bad. And there was an induced coma and a tracheostomy. It was all sorts of fun. It was interesting, yes. When I came back into life and got discharged from the hospital, it was several months or more of sort of reclaiming my life. And I wanted to reclaim the writing part. And I, at that point, was in the middle of writing the second in the Your Life with RA series. But it was too big and too complex for where I was in terms of my energy and kind of my whole thought processes and everything. So I wanted to write something shorter and lighter that would still be useful.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I could expand my Chronic Christmas blog series into a book. So that's how it started.
Got it. And ta-da, now we have it. Yeah.
There you go.
It's so great. I love it. So, okay, you just explained why you call this your Advent calendar, because it's a day by day, which is so cool. And it started on your blog. So each day, starting December 1st, it sort of offers advice for those dealing with chronic illness, as well as their friends and family, right through December 31st. It's an easy read with a lot of actionable suggestions. I loved your idea about keeping a gift list throughout the year. How does that work?
The gift list, it's something I've been doing for years. I feel strongly about presents, both giving and receiving. And I also feel it's important to give something that's actually meaningful and that the person will like.
Yes.
And I find I get really tired of panicking and just getting something, anything. It didn't matter what it was. And because it's going to end up being regifted or end up in the closet or just not used.
Yes.
And so at a certain point, I started keeping a list in a Word document that whenever I stumbled over something perfect for someone with whom I was exchanging gifts, I would put the link in the Word document. And then by the time it comes to buy Christmas presents, which I never do in August because that's just weird. Sorry to all of you who are very organized.
Right. Apologies to you uber organized FUMSers out there, but
yeah. Well, you know what? I did do it one year, and then the problem was that I was all done by early September, and then all the cool Christmas presents start coming out.
Oh, right.
So that year, everybody ended up getting double gifts, and so it's way more expensive for me.
Yeah, no kidding. And I would forget where I put stuff, honestly, if I got it that.
Yes, I've done that. I have a present box now that helps.
Oh yeah, smart.
So I just put the links in there and I organize it neatly. And then when a good time comes to start buying gifts, then I just click buy and Bob from
Love it. Love it. All right, so let's get to it. On day one, on December 1st, you start with one of my favorite suggestions, shop online. It's such a gift to those of us who fatigue or get overwhelmed easily, but also because I published an annual gift guide for MSers. It's for anyone, but it's got over 50 gift ideas to make it even easier. You can find that gift guide at FUMSnow.com/holiday gift guide. And as always, don't stress about taking notes as you're listening. I'll post all of the resources we talk about today in the show notes at FUMSnow.com/episode 27. So, Lena, do you have any favorite tips or tricks for online shopping?
Well, one of them is checking out gift guides, just as the one you're suggesting. And I might have actually take a look at that and may use one or two with credit, of course, planning to do basically another advent calendar for December on the Seated View, where every day I'll do a little write-up about a specific thing that can be useful for people with chronic illness. So I can cross-pollinate. But when I mentioned earlier that usually by early November, thereabouts, I mostly know what I'm getting for everyone. And that's usually when I start slowly ordering things.
Yeah.
Especially when it's something from Etsy that might need to be made. But if it's things I can buy at one of the larger retail giants like Amazon or a department store or places like that, I usually wait until Black Friday or Cyber Monday and see if I can get it on sale.
Yeah.
And hopefully save some money. So that's my big
a good one.
That connected to my gift guide.
Yeah.
My biggest tips.
Smart. Okay. You suggested in the helping someone with chronic illness section of that chapter to offer to shop for their friends for those things they can't get online. And I love this one. You suggested that they offer to wrap gifts for them. Please share why that could be so helpful.
Well, it is one of the things that I do in each chapter. There is a tip for somebody with chronic illness, and there's also a tip for their loved ones on how to help them. And the wrapping thing is important and came out of my own experience. I had RA, well, when I got autoimmune arthritis, it was at a time when there wasn't any treatments. And it's made me pretty disabled in terms of mobility and dexterity, and wrapping gifts is really hard for me. It's a lot of upper body movements, and if you have a big gift, it's impossible for me to wrap it. So I'll ask someone to help me, maybe one of my friends, maybe one of my attendants, aka caregivers, I think they call them in the US.
Yes.
They'll do the wrapping, the stuff that requires big movements. I hand pieces of tapes and do the tag. And it goes really quickly. And more than that, it's really social.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, my family would attend big extended family celebrations. And somehow the women always ended up doing the dishes while the men, took a nap or took a walk.
It's still like that in my family, by the way. I don't know.
I think it's like that in everybody's family. Although a couple of years ago when we had Christmas, my sister has twins and they were 11 at the time. And Morgan, the girl, had just kind of been let loose on the dishes and she offered to do them. So she did all the dishes after.
Wow. Nice.
It was awesome. Anyway, the point was with the whole dishes thing was like, even as a kid, I noticed that my mother, my grandmother, and my aunts always had a blast in the kitchen. And that's sort of, I pulled that into the book because really you can have a lot of fun when doing simple tasks, and wrapping gifts is the same thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved when you suggested to both the person with the illness and their friend to let go of perfectionism and make it fun. So how would you suggest they make decorating fun? Because one of the things you suggest, which I loved, is just decorate 5 minutes a day if that's all you can manage. I just think that's brilliant. And it's so simple, but it hadn't occurred to me. And it felt like you gave me permission to do that in this book. But as I said, I digress, sorry. The perfectionism can really, stop you cold in all facets of your life. But you say let go of that, which I think is smart. So how do you suggest you make decorating fun?
Well, I think especially, if I may digress a bit too, I think especially when you have a chronic illness, you can get very wrapped up in what you used to be able to do. And then you try to make everything even more perfect, even if you may have been perfectly relaxed about something before. Now you get all wound up about it because you're so aware of maybe not measuring up to your own expectations. So I think that that whole being aware of the quest for perfection and trying to make everything look like it does in magazines. And I just like to point out that takes a stylist who gets paid a lot of money to make that happen.
And then they can edit it.
Well, exactly. Photoshop, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think also partly because I grew up with our tree in Denmark. There's a tradition with handmade decorations, and kids get involved really early on. So you got those really kind of wonky handmade little braided hearts or the garlands and everything. And in my family and in many others in Denmark, these become very treasured because it's something that, Lena made when she was 4, and this is the one that this other person made when they were, and you connect the memories of this tradition to these not pretty but very sweet decorations, right? So there's that. But I also think part of making decorating fun is knowing what you can mess with and what you can't. I think if someone is helping you decorate, you need to have a serious conversation at first about what you can mess with and what you can't, because we all have the decorations that need to be placed exactly somewhere.
Right.
Because that's the way they've always been. And it might be an heirloom, or it might be something that has a memory attached. So you need to establish parameters. And you, as the person who's being helped, also need to let go and remember that it's not every single decoration that needs to be placed just so, right? So, but after that, get some nice drinks, some hot chocolate, some mulled wine, put on some seasonal music, sing along loudly. And even if your singing voice is terrible, like mine.
Loud and proud.
Loud and proud, absolutely. And then you just play around.
Yeah, make it fun.
Exactly. And depending on who's helping you and whether the drink is alcoholic, it can result in something really silly or maybe something a little naughty. And that just makes it more fun.
You're speaking my language now, Lena. As the listeners know, I am a big fan of wine.
Wine is
I'm a
good.
very large fan of wine. Yes, I am. So that's my medicine of that I far prefer. Okay, you even have recipes in this book, which is so cool. You give a recipe. All right, I'm going to attempt this. You give a recipe for glog and finskrud. I know I'm butchering those. How do you say those?
Not entirely. No, it didn't butcher them entirely. There's an what's on the umlaut above the O in the first one, which makes this gluk.
Gluk. Okay.
Yeah. And the other is Fitzburg.
Okay.
That's the original. So that wasn't bad.
Okay. All right.
Not at all.
Well, thank you. And what are those?
Gluk is a Scandinavian Christmas drink, sort of mulled wine. At its most basic, it's basically you put some red wine in a pot and heat it up with chopped blanched almonds and raisins. But each family has their own variation, and Chronic Christmas includes my family's recipe, which is quite potent.
Oh, I like it.
Yes.
We're back to the wine thing again.
We're back, yeah. I'm not sure you should decorate after drinking that, but,
Well, it could be interesting. I bet you'd give up on your perfectionism then.
Absolutely. I think there would be a lot of laughing.
Excellent.
In terms of Finsburg, it's a traditional Danish Christmas cookie, and it's a little like shortbread, but topped with chopped almonds and coarse sugar. And it's my favorite Christmas cookie. I remember helping my mom make them when I was quite little. And it's really easy to make, and the more individual each cookie looks, the better, which makes it perfect for people who might have some dexterity issues.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, I love that. And I just love learning about other countries' holiday traditions. I just think I love that you included those. So thank you for that. In the book, you talk about how the holidays can become a problem instead of a celebration. Very well aware of that. And you suggest, this cracked me up, throwing money at the problem. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Well, basically, I think if you have the funds, or you can find the funds, you can pay your way out of a lot of things that will either annoy you or basically take energy that you could be using for something else.
That's right.
And that's things like getting party platters from your supermarket for your holiday party, or even the big day, because a lot of supermarkets make some really delicious platters with a lot of different choices.
Truth.
A lot of retailers have the option to get something gift wrapped for a small extra amount.
Right, I've seen that.
And then there's a big one, instead of using your precious energy on cleaning the house, get a cleaning service.
Amen, sister. I'm liking that.
Yeah, even if it's just that one time a year, maybe that is your present to yourself. Is that you don't have to clean your house. And if you do that, remember, don't clean the house before the cleaning service comes.
Point taken.
Yes.
That's what my kids said. I had a cleaning service for a very short time because they, speaking about perfectionism, they didn't do it like I wanted it done. Whatever. I'm working on it. But my kids would say, Mom, why do we have to clean the house before the cleaning lady?
Yeah, I don't know any women who don't do that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciated that you went there and talked about the isolation of chronic illness. You suggested kind of an answer to that we look up. What do you mean by that?
Well, the isolation was another reason why I included daily tips for how others can help, as well as what you could do yourself. It was to break down the isolation and bring people together. When you're really busy or you're depressed, you tend to exist in your own little world. And whether your head is in your to-do list or you're withdrawn into yourself, you're missing out on a lot that in the everyday, and especially in the period leading up to the holidays, that's a lot about building the anticipation, all the exciting things that are happening, and you're just not noticing them. And that kind of kills. It means that not only it doesn't kill the mood, because there never is a mood, right?
Right.
So by looking up, I meant basically take off your earphones, put your list in your pocket, and look at the world around you. And that means, saying hi to strangers on the street, notice all the festive decorations, check out the guy wearing a Rudolph nose for no reason other than it's December. And
Be mindful.
It opens you up and connects you to others. And that's how the spirit of the season kind of enters you.
Yeah. Oh, I like that so much. So Denmark is your country of birth and you were raised there, but now you live in Canada. So Denmark, you say, excels at Christmas with the whole country embracing. Okay, here's another word. I'm going to try it. Is it hygge?
Hygge.
Hygge. Okay. You got it. I have to clip it off at the end. So what the heck is that?
Well, hygge is, like most Danish expressions, it doesn't have an exact counterpart in English. Cozy gets part of the way there.
Okay.
But it's not the full concept. It's about togetherness, connecting to other people, trust, love, intimacy, support, good food. Basically, when you sit down with people you like and just kind of talk about, it doesn't have to be big topics, but just kind of nibble at some yummy things that you probably got from the store, didn't make yourself, because that's crazy.
Right.
And have a glass of glück or some wine, and there's candlelight, and that's because most of the suggestions in Chronic Christmas will facilitate it in some way.
Nice. I love that. In Denmark, that's not just at Christmas time. This is sort of their attitude all the time. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very important part of the culture. And it was very big a couple of years ago all over the world. Well, certainly in North America, it was hygge all over. And now it seems to have been put on the shelf in favor of minimalism, which isn't necessarily terribly hyggely, which I guess the adverb of that.
That's funny.
So I prefer hygge. Hygge often also, it has a little bit of, because it's more about the focus on being together and connecting, there's definitely a little bit of that whole letting go of perfectionism.
Got it. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of your suggestions seem to be about like dialing down stress and drama and expectation. Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Well, the Danes are not a particularly dramatic people. It's all very stoic and not with a lot of emotions. But more than that, it's so much of actually having a good time and enjoying yourself.
Nice.
Is about not having these preconceived ideas about what things are going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't expect perfection, it means you can roll with the disasters that are inevitable.
True.
And you might even be able to laugh at them. And whether it's a burnt turkey or that family member who always get bent out of shape about the holidays.
Right. Politics.
Yeah. You can absolutely, because the holidays are very emotional for a lot of people. And a lot of people get very uptight and emotional. And you can cope better if you are relaxed and not thinking that whether it's the turkey or the family member or the tree that fell over, that you're not saying, oh my God, it ruined Christmas.
Right.
It just becomes that Christmas that the tree fell over. My family has a great legend about that one year when we had to tie a tree to various parts of the living room.
Oh, I'd love to hear that, over some wine. So in this book, back to the book, I could talk to you all day, but back to the book. You list some great ideas for gifts for people with chronic illness. Would you mind sharing just a few with our listeners?
Not at all. Chronic Christmas includes a few surprises, and one of them is a list of gift ideas for under $20 because, when you have a chronic illness, a lot of your money goes to medication, so you don't have a lot of money, and really it's the thought that counts, not the price. And if you put some thought into what you're getting, $20 is often enough.
Yes.
It could be a DVD of a movie that's special to you and the recipient. One of my longtime friends, we have a thing with Thelma and Louise. And I hope she doesn't listen to this, but this year I'm looking to see if there's either the movie itself in some sort of special edition, or I'm going to do some Thelma and Louise thing. You can buy a nice picture frame with a photo of you and the recipient in a particularly memorable moment. You can make gift certificates. Now, we all know these gift certificates, especially kids make.
Yes.
And promise their parents something specific, and then they never honor them.
Yeah.
These can work really well, and especially for people who are friends or family of the person with chronic illness, say things like a freezer meal or an escort to the doctor or anything else that could be helpful. But then it's important that if you do the gift certificates, that you actually honor it. That it's not just you give the gift certificates and wait for the other person to say, now I would like this.
Right.
Because that never happens. So it becomes kind of oh yeah, that was nice, but it just never happens.
Right.
That's also why on each day in Chronic Christmas, I include actual practical doable tips for loved ones to help someone with chronic illness, because we always end up in that situation where somebody who cares about us will say, oh, anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Right.
Because they don't know what we need. And we're at the point where it's like, well, I don't know what to ask for, and I feel weird asking, so you don't. And so I'm hoping that these 20 plus tips will actually make more people go, I could do this for my friends.
Yeah.
Who has MS or any other type of chronic illness.
Right. Yep. That's why it's great for those of us with a chronic illness and those who love us. It's great for both.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we come to the magic day. It's Christmas. And you basically tell everyone to just enjoy it, right? Just sort of take it all in because it sneaks up on us every year and then it flies away as quick as it came. So enjoy it though it's fleeting. Is that the basic gist of the big day?
Absolutely. And the basic gist of chronic Christmas in general, if you can say that the book has a philosophy, is about that whole idea of, I guess, slowing down and just paying attention. We talked a little bit about mindfulness earlier, and there's a great book called Mindfulness for Beginners that has I listened to the audio program, and it's very good. At one point, there's this great quote that just stuck with me that said, life is made up of moments. The faster you move, the more you miss.
Oh, I love that.
I know. It's a very good reminder about just kind of chilling. And that's why I think it's important that you slow down throughout December and as much as possible, reduce what you do so you have the mental and physical space to pay attention to everyone that makes this season so special. And especially on Christmas. It can be horrendously busy and stressful, or something that's absolutely magical if you take, again, the time to pay attention to small moments. If you have kids, it's the look on their face when it all actually happens, right? It's that delicious taste of the Christmas dinner or your favorite Christmas carol.
Or that wine.
Yeah, or the wine, or the wine. If you're too busy to focus on making everything perfect or make sure everything happens at the right time, you miss all of that.
Right.
And I think that's why many adults don't feel that the holidays are any fun anymore. They've become so busy making perfect for other people or for the kids, or too sucked into that emphasis on the material side, that they forget that the magic lies in those small moments between people, not in what's in the box.
Right.
But that there is a box, maybe, or just that. Assuming that there isn't terrible family drama, that it's often about just kind of sitting and
being with the people you love.
Being with the people you love, doing something. That's what makes tradition so valuable, is that, yes, it's more or less the same as we did the year before that, but it's also unique in its own way. And if you get lost in perfectionism, you lose your sense of enjoyment.
True that. Well, Lena, it's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it to anyone with a chronic illness. Hello, MSers, or anyone who cares about someone with a chronic illness. I'll link to the book in the show notes, so be sure to go to FUMSnow.com/episode 27. And it's one of my suggestions in the FUMS holiday gift guide, too.
Is it? Thank you.
It is. Where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on my website, theseatedview.com. I'm also at The Seated View on Twitter and Instagram. Not so much on Facebook. I made a change when I got my Facebook page, and that wasn't smart. It's Lena Andersen Writer on Facebook, and I hope you'll include it in the show notes. Because
I absolutely will.
Excellent, because nobody can spell my name. And you can reach me at Lena, that's Lene, at yourlifewithra.com. That's Lene at yourlifewithra.com.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for being here, Lena. Thank you for writing this wonderful book, and happy holidays.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.